This is why they've switched to talking about cases instead of deaths. And what they're doing is they are using these cases. They've got a hypersensitive test. So they were doing two things previously. A, they had a hypersensitive test, and B, they just started testing people randomly, like almost randomly. Like you don't have any known contact with anyone with COVID. You don't have any COVID symptoms. We're going to test you. And then we're going to test you with a hypersensitive test that's likely to provide a positive result. And then we're going to use that information to justify mass hysteria and lockdowns. And yeah, it is good that the CDC recently said, well, the guidelines are you don't have to test unless you have symptoms now. They've changed that. But they're still using this hypersensitive test. And a lot of states and a lot of counties are ignoring the CDC guidelines, and they're doing massive testing anyway. So you're getting all of this testing with hypersensitive tests, and that's then therefore being used to justify these lockdowns when there isn't really a justification for these lockdowns.
Does the article kind of go into that and make it plain for people? Because I think part of the problem would be just explaining everything that you just did.
I tried to make it plainer than the article. So
okay. Yeah.
Maybe it needs to be made plainer than that. But I guess the summary is the tests are hypersensitive. There's a very high false positive rate. And so talking and infection and positive tests are not the same thing. So you'll hear mainstream media say, in fact, we just looked at this. Actually, I don't know. I don't think I have it anymore, but you sent, here it is. Oh, these are daily deaths. But if you look at infection rates, they'll say, oh, here are the infection rates for this area. Those aren't infection rates. Those are positive test rates. Positive tests are not infections. But they have conflated the two. And so they've convinced everyone that there's massive infection rate when that's not true. There's a massive positive testing increase, not a massive infection increase. In fact, here, let's look at another piece of data for fun. Here is kind of a fun site, Our World in Data. This is kind of hard to see, but we'll try and see it anyway, because both the linear and the logarithmic graph are kind of not clear, but we'll walk through them. The orange is daily confirmed cases. And this is in the world, by the way. And the bottom here is deaths, daily confirmed deaths. Now you would look, it looks like there's a massive amount of increases in daily confirmed cases. And again, cases in quote, cases is being measured by positive tests. But the deaths have not correspondingly risen as much. Now there has been a rise in death, but it hasn't corresponded to the rise in the number of cases. And you can switch to the log chart because this death is hard to see. You can switch to the logarithmic chart. Now a logarithmic chart is tough because each line here, logarithmic means you're seeing an order of magnitude jump between each line here. So it makes it look like they're tracking a lot closer than they are. But again, this one's death, this bluish gray, and this orange is confirmed cases. But you can just do some quick math. If you look back here and you do some math, you see that the confirmed cases, the deaths to confirmed cases ratio is like 7% or somewhere around there at the beginning. And it's dropped to less than 2% over here. So they've diverged. And the reason they've diverged is precisely because we have started to we're testing more people and we're relying on hypersensitive tests. And they're using that again. So you can also see, I was looking for counter evidence. And I ran across this COVID tracking project at The Atlantic. And I was like, wow, the COVID tracking project, that paper we looked at before, their data went to about here, mid-September. And you can see after mid-September, according to the COVID tracking project, wow, the deaths have skyrocketed. Where are they getting that data? Well, it turns out if you ask them where they're getting that data, always a problem, they're getting it from press conferences and what state health officials are saying. So this isn't great data. You really should be going to maybe the CDC or the excess mortality rates here. Again, you're not seeing you're seeing a small uptick in death, but not a huge one, right? Back in April was the big one. There's not another, it's it's gone up in the last week or so, according to the CDC. Here, let's look at the CDC. Here's the CDC, right? April's the peak. We're nowhere near the peak. This is the CDC. I mean, if you're going to use numbers and scare people, I don't know why you're using press conference numbers. Why aren't you using the CDC numbers? But if you use press conference numbers, you can make scary graphs like this that make it look like the death rate is going up. Crazy.
Press conference numbers.
Yeah, my favorite thing is press conference numbers. So
that's like that makes about as much sense as saying that we're going to let the New York Times decide who won the presidential election.
Well, no one would.
They
ever
get
do
to
that,
announce.
Carrie. That's crazy.